Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Man on Second podcast. My name is Eric Wiedeke. As always, I am joined by Joe Frisaro. Thank you guys for joining us again. If you could, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Five Reasons YouTube sports page. That's where you can find us every day, all day, and you're going to find us at least twice a week. You'll also find Joe more than once a week with his Marlins podcast, with his Marlins Prospect podcast, hosted with David Fernandez. Fantastic work on that. By the way, Joe, how you feeling coming off vacation?
Oh, I'm doing great, Eric, and it's good to be back. Refreshed. You might see the Field of Dreams shirt I
Yep.
got. I got that at Baseballisms. That's a great story. And like, ever seen like Sandy Alcantara having a 6+4+3=2 for the double play combination?
Yeah.
Baseballism sells those shirts as well. So I always like to get some baseball themed T-shirts to wear for the podcast. But I'm back. I was in Arizona for about a week. I actually saw a couple of minor league games. I saw actually Zach Gallen face Luis Castillo. The Reds were in town, so I saw a game there. And so Gallen against Luis Castillo, two obviously former Marlins. Gallen, of course, pitcher of the Marlins. Castillo, once a prospect, traded for Dan Straley in a trade many Marlin fans are not real happy about. But it was good to do that. And Eric, I was at a minor league game and I got a foul ball.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. There are four people in the stands, so it kind of enhances the chances. But you guys can't see, it's the minor league logo with the official ball, but it was good to get a baseball, which is always fun. But yeah, good to be back. And like you say, you see in the bottom there also dugoutmugs.com/man-on-2nd. If you want any of these really good dugout mugs, that helps us out. And we're gonna be broadening our podcast.
Yeah.
The Marlins are a big part of it, but we're gonna be talking baseball, National League East, obviously Tampa Bay Rays, the big market teams, and we're gonna have some fun with this. But big this week, Eric, I felt big news was the All-Star balloting. Fans vote for the starters for both leagues. And it was really refreshing to see that Jazz Chisholm Jr. tops all National League second basemen in the fan vote. Now, if Jazz should win, I guess he'd be the first voted in starter by a Marlin since 2017, Marcelo Ozuna, when the game, of course, was here in Miami. Giancarlo started that, but he was named the designated hitter for the National League back then. There wasn't universal DH. So,
Right.
And then we go back to Hanley Ramirez being 3 straight times voted in by the fans. Not really, happens very often with our market down here. It's getting those votes, is kind of hard, but it just shows the wide appeal and the fan appeal that Jazz has.
Yeah, I mean, I think fans love, big personalities. Jazz is one of those guys. If pitchers had been voted in, Jose would have been one of those guys. Obviously you go back to Hanley. There's very few guys, especially in a small market like Miami. It's rare to get a guy that can transcend the market like Jazz can, and I think that's something that the Marlins would be wise to capitalize off of. And it's not he's not just getting in for his personality. Let's be very clear on that. The guy's slugging over 500. He absolutely deserves the recognition that he's getting. But it just like we said, it speaks to his national appeal, which I think is a really big thing for this Marlins club.
Yeah, and international. I know he's from the Bahamas and all. It's interesting because he played a lot when he was like high school age in the States, in the state of Florida. He played against a lot of, like, I think he faced Jonathan India when he was in high school. He played on, Perfect Game in Jupiter. And Jazz has that it factor. We've talked about that. It kind of is a rub sometimes. We know about the team meeting, when you're losing and, it looks like people are more individual than team oriented. It can do a rub. But overall, there's so much about Jazz's game that I personally like, and his charisma. I think he's a great kid, who really loves baseball. And I think that connects with people. I mean, he signs autographs. And people don't realize just how important that is. I see when I'm at the park, the way before the game starts, he'll go over. If people are over there, he will sign for kids. On the road, he does the same. If he's out on the field early, he connects, and he's approachable. He's honest, sometimes brutally honest to a fault. If you ask him a question, he'll tell you exactly how he feels. He doesn't get politically correct on that. But overall, I mean, you can see baseball's embraced him. I know he's his image is in highlight reels often. And there's like I said, the it factor, and as you note, the slugging is. I just wrote it down. He's hitting slugging 518.
Yeah,
and I know some people are whining about the 313 on base percentage. And Donnie kind of, I've always advocated for Jazz at the top of the order, but whether you're sitting first or second really doesn't matter much to me. The fact that John Birdie is stepping up has made an interesting lineup switch, which, whether Jazz or Birdie's hitting first or second, he has that speed dynamic, but Birdie's getting on, and this isn't counting tonight. We're recording this on Wednesday night.
377.
Yeah, the 377 OBP, the 19 stolen bases. Birdie's got a 1.6 WAR, and Jazz has a 2 WAR. And so Jazz could drive you in one swing. Yeah. So with guys like that, he's an extra base hit machine. I think if the team kind of crawls back into contention, you'll see Jazz's numbers be better. I looked up not long ago, late and close. His batting average is really high. So he embraces the spotlight. So, we're pulling for Jazz. Vote Jazz, obviously. Vote for other Marlins too. Cooper's having a good year.
Yep.
I mean, Goldschmidt's having an MVP year. Vote for all the Marlins that you feel are deserving, or just vote, or just engage in it because it's fun. You can fill out the ballots. But yeah, we wanted to hit on Jazz. I wanted to also hit on, if you're going to do a pitching matchup, and you noted that fans don't vote for the pitcher, I'm thinking the Marlins are going to get 2. Assuming Jazz gets voted in, which he will. And that obviously Ozzie Albies being hurt helps Jazz as well. We hate that for Ozzie, and you don't like that for baseball, but that was the next closest in the voting. What about this? Sandy Alcantara not just makes the All-Star team, which I think is a lock that he'll make the All-Star team. What if he starts the All-Star game?
That's gonna be interesting, because I think it's really a tight race at the moment between him and a guy like Joe Musgrove, and Musgrove being on in a larger market in San Diego might get that nod.
And it's in LA. The game's in
it's in LA. That said, I think Sandy, and it's not the splashy rise that Jazz has had nationally, but I think Sandy is kind of sneaking up into that national spotlight little by little. You're starting to get people really noticing what he's doing, and it's not because he has this big personality. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that there's definitely a marketable. Sandy's a marketable guy. He's personable, and people love that mentality on the mound that pitchers have. When a guy just looks intimidating on the mound, people love that. So Sandy has that to him. It'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a tight race. It'll be because he's as consistent as they come. I have no doubt he's going to do everything that he can to put himself in that position.
That's a great point, but I'm going to throw this at you. The Padres currently are neck and neck with the Dodgers for first place. I don't know how it's going to fall, the rotations, but we often see this where they might pitch their best on that Sunday before the All-Star game.
Yep.
And then we've seen this happen a lot of time with pitchers, and then that pitcher is not available, obviously, to even pitch. They may go to the All-Star game, but do the Padres kind of look to win as much with Musgrove on the mound to try to steal the West from the Dodgers? Let's say the Marlins fall way out of it. Donnie could put his rotation, however, to say, guess who's available on Tuesday?
Yep.
And, he'll be fine. If Sandy keeps pitching at this high level, I could see that potentially factoring in, because it's not always who's statistically the best. It's who's statistically the best, who lines up.
Yep.
That does play a factor. So what are your thoughts if there's any kind of manipulation around there to see who's available?
I think that's definitely an interesting thought. I think I could definitely see the Marlins doing that if they do fall out of contention, just to make the gesture to Sandy, and definitely San Diego lining themselves up to have Musgrove, kind of be the lead into the All-Star break as well as the first guy out of the break, depending on how many days are in between there. It definitely can line up that way. I'm hoping to see Sandy start. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him argue with Brian Snitker about not going out in the second inning too.
But that's also your interesting point, because Snit has seen Sandy.
Yeah.
You don't have to sell Brian Snitker on Pablo Lopez, Sandy Alcantara, Jazz Chisholm. He knows all of the good Marlin players. So I think that Donnie just has to make a call. Hey, look, and that's usually prearranged.
Right.
The All-Star game, usually about a week or two before. You're not really blindsided. You'll be, the All-Star manager will be in touch with, let's say they all were even. He may just call each one and say, hey, look, and they do this anyway. Do you even want Sandy to pitch in the All-Star game? He may have 130 innings by then, and they might want him to be completely shut down. Or they could say, yes, he wants to go. He's good for an inning, but pitch him in the fourth, around third or fourth. Don't have him in a high leverage at the end. Give the first or second inning to whomever. But like I said, I think the Marlins, and I think Sandy would well embrace that. Imagine two Marlins in the starting lineup, Jazz and Sandy on the mound. But like I said, Sandy's at 91 the third innings in 14 starts. It's remarkable. And I think this helps him too. We talk about his durability and the fact he goes so deep in the games, but that 815 K per nine, it's not at the top, and I'm perfectly fine with it. And because that ERA is 1.72, he's got that power sinker and that changeup. He gets ground balls, and so he's able to get out of messes, and he doesn't give a ton of hard contact. That he seems like he could pitch every other day. He is such a throwback type of resilient arm. But that would be interesting. Now we throw something else at you, because I think from the state of Florida and a man on second point of view, what if he matches up with a left-hander in the American League from Tampa Bay Rays named Shane McClanahan, who in 14 starts has at 84 in the third innings, 1.81 ERA, Sandy's 1.72, 1.81 for Shane McClanahan, 12.06 K per nine. And this is what gets me with Shano is 1.71 walks per nine. Sandy's at 2.54 walks per nine. So as hard as McClanahan throws, and how electric his slider is and his changeup, he is in the strike zone, and he is a fun pitcher to watch. And I know I think it'd be great for the state of Florida to have Sandy against Shane starting that All-Star game. I'm not sure it'll play out that way, but we could always kind of plant the seeds beforehand.
Yeah, no, I think it would be a really fun matchup. Obviously the batters are all-stars, but I mean, Shane McClanahan and Sandy, and Sandy's not thinking about going 9, so he's going to be throwing 101 out the gate. It's definitely going to be a fun exhibition to think about between those two guys for sure.
Yeah, even if they got the third inning, let's say he didn't start, but they were the next. Let's say the starter went 2 innings and they both got the third. I think that would be fun. It's a fun time of year for that, and I think our market has got to start thinking that, because there are markets that flood the ballots. There's no doubt about it. And fans usually, they get it right. I know they take a lot of heat for it, but there's really, a lot of times the coaches and managers get it wrong too. They pick the gold gloves. And I know analytics is built into some percentage of it, but they don't see everyone, and they don't pay as close of attention. You could say the media, I think, and I'm current, and an active BBWAA member, and, I think we do a great job, but we miss too. And it's just natural. You're not going to, you're more involved in your team you focus on. You try to do your best to get as much info, But those are some electric arms, and um, yeah, it would be a lot of fun. Who would be your next tier? Obviously, I don't think they'll get in. I don't think the Marlins get more than two, but Pablo's had such a good year. You
Yeah,
know,
it would definitely be Pablo. I think for me, if he's able to put together, let's say he gets hot again down the stretch, and puts together, 2-3 good starts prior to the All-Star break, and he's got a pretty good one going right now. If he pieces together another few, 2-3 good starts like this one, and he looks more like the guy that we saw in April to mid-May, then yeah, I think there's a good shot that Pablo could be the third guy, and I think that he should be the third guy. An unheralded guy, if you wanted to go, bullpen, Anthony Bass has been really really good this year. But usually they save the bullpen for closers. You're chock full of
yeah,
good.
it's usually the six best
Yeah,
closers, or one guy is in the. They would
exactly.
give, and
Yeah,
then they'll bring one guy who could go 2 innings if there's an extra inning game, or
yeah.
save a long man. But yeah, it's that time of year. Vote, and it's fun. Boy, it would be fun to see Jazz like first pitch leadoff homer, and
Oh
although
yeah.
they're the home team, the National League, so he wouldn't open the game with it. But it'd be fun if he's at the top. How do you think Jazz's season's progressing? I mean, he's had some peaks and valleys.
Um, I think the underlying numbers suggest that maybe he's gotten a little unlucky to a point this year. The BABIP I know is below 300 right now. The walk rate is up just a little bit. He I think Jazz is doing pretty well. He's gotten OPS over 800. He's improved leaps and bounds defensively, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is something that hasn't gotten enough love. Really, I think he's doing what he should be doing. I know a lot of people, wanted Jazz to, to hit 300 and get on base at a 400 clip. It's just I don't know if that's realistic to expect from him, right now. Could he be that guy? Maybe one day, but I think his swing doesn't really lend itself to being, a big on base guy. But I think Jazz is doing exactly what he should be doing this year. I think he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the lineup was a little stronger, he would probably, fit in. But I think there's probably in part of him that feels he has to carry more weight because the
Right.
lineup has kind of struggled. I know they're putting up some runs against Colorado this series, but I'm not getting overly. Yes, you take all the wins you can get and try to get back close to 500, but Rockies are among the worst pitching team, and the Marlins are doing what you're supposed to do against mediocre pitching. That's where you get your numbers. So I'm not going to get too carried away there. But I think if he were part of, like the Mets lineup or something like that,
Yeah,
where
no,
he could just
absolutely.
do his part, that's why I think a lot of these teams have built super lineups, and those are the teams that go to the postseason and win, is because, you could take Corey Seager out of LA and the Dodgers still can score as much as anyone, even with Bellinger kind of in decline a little bit, or Muncy hurt, because you get Freddie Freeman and
Yep.
Mookie Betts, I know, is hurt, but it's like that's what you do. You saw the Padres are doing that. Like even as the Padres in this day Wednesday, Alfaro hit a home run today off Caleb
Yep.
Smith, their old friend, and he had the game winning hit in extra innings last night. Now we
Yep.
know Jorge Alfaro is very streaky, he's very strong, but in a lineup that's deep, the expectation isn't on Jorge Alfaro. He's got a deep lineup, and it's where I think the Marlins had to be thinking. And Garcia seems to be heating up a little bit, which is good. Soler the same. The Marlins have potential to have a deeper lineup, but I'm not sure even on their best day they're punching with the Mets, the Braves, and so forth.
Right. And it's really a good point about those lineups because it takes I don't want to say that it takes away the game planning aspect of teams, But you go into a game against the Marlins and you say, you're looking up and down the lineup. You're saying, I don't want Jazz to beat me, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but you can't do that with like the Dodgers lineup, because if you walk Freddie Freeman, all of a sudden it's Mookie Betts or it's Trey Turner or whoever or Will Smith. You can't pitch those guys like you're afraid of them, because you're just as afraid of who comes next.
Exactly.
And
It's
so
to pick your poison.
exactly.
And when the Dodgers are healthy and they could go Mookie Betts leading off and Freddie Freeman second.
Yeah.
I mean, you have two swings and it's a 2-run game. Both are capable of, doubling, homering, just doing a ton of damage. And, we know the Marlins last weekend in New York, went 1-3. The win was a Sandy win. If the Marlins, even if they take care of business and sweep the Rockies, it's going to be telling again, because the Mets are coming to town this weekend.
Those are coming back too.
Yeah. So how do you see the Mets? I mean, you see, I know they lost 2 in a row to the Astros. I'm looking at the line score. They gave 4 runs. Carrasco had a bad day. And they didn't get hit much offense in Houston tonight. Lost 5-3. But I mean, that lineup, Nimmo just does damage. Marte's having a really good year. Lindor's not having a great year. He went 2 for 4.
Canho was a fantastic pickup.
And Alonso is, got 19 bombs. So you got that going on at the top of your order. We know what the Braves can do. The Phillies are cooling a little bit, but we know what they're capable of doing. How do you see the East kind of shaping up?
I'm starting to get the sinking feeling that it's here come the Braves. That's the feeling that I've gotten of late. Obviously, the Albies injury is going to hurt them a little bit. The Mets, Scherzer might be coming back at the right time, because I think honestly, and their starting pitching's been good, but I think Miguel went down recently. And so at some point that was going to catch up with them. I think the starting pitching depth just being eviscerated like it has been for them. And Edwin Diaz has been fantastic for them as a bullpen arm. But I just think when Atlanta's whole and they're healthy and they've got everybody going, I still see them, I think, as the top of the NL East, because it feels like for New York, and I caution myself in saying this because the Mets have revealed themselves to be really, really good, but I find myself questioning if they've peaked. As I do with just about any team that's this good this early on in the season, because it is a long season.
Yes.
And so you're always looking for, okay, which team is going to hit their stride at the right time. And so that's my concern with the Mets is, everything's kind of gone right for them to this point, aside from,
the
injuries.
But,
and
great points. And I agree. I think Showalter is a differentiator, though. I don't think this is the last couple of years Mets where it collapses. If they collapse, they collapse. But I think they have the right manager to keep this team where it needs to be. But Atlanta, this is their lineup, and they're losing 2-0 to the Giants in the bottom of the 5th. Again, we're recording this on Wednesday night. Acuna, who hasn't hit a stride yet. Swanson, who's a really good shortstop, as we know, hitting close to 300. Marcell Ozuna, really impactful. He's a little bit of a down year, but we know Ozo's capable of. Matt Olson, adjusting to the NL after the AL, a threat, hitting about 250. Contreras catching, Darno is really good.
Yeah.
Now they got Arcia and Adam Duvall. We know is super streaky. They got Phil Coslin playing second. And then was it Michael Harris, the rookie, playing center, and Charlie Morton. So they have have their pitching in order, and their bullpen's really good. That's a really good lineup. When you lose Albies, but you have that, and they have pieces to trade.
Exactly.
So I think that's there. I was watching the Phillies against the Rangers earlier today. Rangers to me are sneaky good. We can talk about them another time. Because they got some interesting, blend of old and young. the Phillies, as well as they're doing with Rob Thompson at the helm, it still gets back to it's not a very athletic team. And Zach Wheeler kind of got roughed up today. And they win if Wheeler's really good. They need him not to go 4 1/3. He's got to go 7. And the
Right.
bullpen is so shaky. And I'll give you an example in the game today. The Rangers had first and third with 2 outs. And I think it was Cole Calhoun got the single to right center. Castellanos is in right field. He cuts in front of Odubel Herrera to field it on the backhand. Josh H. Smith, who's a rookie who runs really well, very athletic, he's off at a crack at a bat, going first to third, and he scores from first on a single because Castellanos on the backhand, his momentum carried him more to center. He had to turn his body to make the throw to the infield. They're going to exploit Castellanos in right and Schwarber in left.
Yep.
And that type of stuff. And the athleticism of the Rangers stole a key run in a 4-2 win by Texas. You don't score from first on a single. I know
Right.
it's not conventional right to the guy, but Harper's dealing with a blister in his hand, and he's DHing. He's back in the lineup, but what if they miss Harper for any length of time? JT Realmuto is not the same this year. OPS is under 700. I think he has 3 bombs, and I think they're all early, or most of them. And JT doesn't look the same. And so, yes, the Phillies are dangerous because Schwarber has 19 homers, but I think the Marlins are going to be right there with them for third place.
Yeah, the Phillies. It's just I don't know if there's enough moves out there at the deadline for them to overcome their flaws. And it's not because because you can add a fourth outfielder who's got a good glove, but you can't replace both Schwarber and Castellanos in the late innings. The Harper injury, obviously he can still DH for them and he's an impactful bat, but he's a better fielder than either of those two guys at the corner outfield spots. It's tough for them. And the bullpen, I don't know. You can't get more than 1 bullpen arm typically at the deadline, maybe 2. It's just, I don't know if they can overcome their flaws this year, the Phillies. But they do have a good lineup, which is going to keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah, and the thing also is, and I don't have to remind people I'm a big Nick Castellanos fan, but he's hitting just a shade under 250. The OPS is a little bit over 700. He hasn't heated up yet. He seemed a little frustrated. He struck out in the late innings on, Dennis Santana's pretty good, slider for the Rangers. He threw 2 pitches that, where it was like when Stanton had no clue against a slider.
Yeah,
just swing at the ball going out of the left side batter's box. So if Castellanos is mashing, you could put up with, okay, he drives in 2 but allowed 1. He's not driving in 2. And he's allowing 1. So you're gonna have to live with some defensive flaws, which I know it frustrates some Marlin fans who want a true center fielder defensive. And I'm not faulting the Marlins on that. It's like they needed more offense. And finding that center fielder, they could have kept Monte Harrison if you wanted a good defensive center fielder. He'd run everything down and he wouldn't hit very well. But it's like that they got to kind of out hit their defense. And right now, I think that's going to bite the Phillies over 162. And keep in mind, we're about almost that these teams are getting close to 90 games left.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and that's why people who look and say, oh, they're only 7.5 back. Well, in 90 games, you get to 8, 9. That's very little margin for error, because you don't just win 9 in a row and the other lose 9 in a row, and then they play 500 the rest of the way. It's not a good place to be. The people that are familiarizing with the 162 and why it's so tough and why teams make trades at the deadline. Yep. But I still, we will get into deadline talk and before we know it, but I still wouldn't mind seeing some of these teams that are, I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, Eric, and just your thoughts, because we knew with the extra wild card
Yeah.
that you were going to have teams fighting for that sixth spot, that third wild card. And I am a little surprised that some teams haven't jumped the market. And I know the trade deadline is the 2nd of
Right.
August, so it's a little bit later. But somebody, whether it's a big league trade for big league trade, we've talked a lot about Aguilar Cooper, a little redundant. Like, why wouldn't you just try to address something with some kind of combination there, and not just the Marlins, but a lot of these teams?
Right. No, and I knew what you were getting at the second you started, because I've had kind of the same thought too. With so many teams in a playoff race right now, it would make sense that there might be a team out there that wants to get the premier guys first, and so it feels like there should be a race to kind of, oh well, I need to get this before this other team gets that. So I think that will eventually happen. I think, as we get later into June and towards the start of July, I think a lot of teams are going to want to make deals because, teams are trying to set it up towards most advantageous. You make a deal on an off day, you get a guy that way. You don't have to be in the precarious situation of, you're down a guy or you have to call somebody up for a day or what have you. But I do think that those moves will come for exactly the reasons that you said. It's just there are some teams that maybe in a week or two won't believe they're in it, that are still kind of trying to quote unquote compete right now, that we know aren't going to be in the wild card race.
Yeah, and you don't want to. I love you. That's why I think they're going to buy sell. The people who ask me, Joe, what do you think? I don't think they're going to be sellers where Sandy and Pablo and everyone goes out the door. I think they're going to look, and I don't think it's necessarily just going to be expiring contracts either.
Right.
I think that because not everyone's going to need maybe what you want to move, that I think that they can make their roster, especially the Marlins. We see if the Marlins haven't realized now that Birdie and Jazz, that dynamic at the top of the order works, that you just need athleticism. It's not just speed to steal bases, but it's to create opportunity. It's to beat out an infield hit. It's to put pressure on the pitcher. Maybe he throws a wild pitch because he's holding on or makes the pickoff error. It just the way it changes the game to have those guys at the top of the order, that they wouldn't try to do something else. With their outfield configuration, because those are still in a fairly plotting, especially when Donnie reveals the other day that Garcia is a little nicked up with his back and Soler's a little banged up. So you invested all this money in these guys and they're a little broken, not just slumping, their bodies are giving out a little.
Yeah, and it's a real tough situation. I think organizationally they just have to do something with the corner outfield, first base logjam, because they've got so much depth in those spots. That's something that's going to have to be addressed at some point, whether you do it during the season or the off season. I'd prefer they do something during the season, because like you said, you're DHing one of Cooper or Aguilar, right now.
Yeah.
When you could be giving a guy like Soler or a guy like Garcia, you could be getting those guys off their feet, when they need it, like they seem to right now. So I do think that, especially with Anderson and Wendell coming back, it's going to be interesting to see, because they're going to be really deep at the big league level at that point. I mean, you're going to be rolling out a bench of, one of Anderson and Wendell, possibly Birdie, De La Cruz, and Fortes is probably going to be, your main bench at that point, which is a solid bench, to be sure.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack and a lot to do, and I think we jammed a lot in.
We did
into these 35 minutes, but a great episode. Eric, take us out of here. Remind everyone where they could find us, and again, remind like and subscribe to the 5 Reason YouTube channel. A lot of great content. Obviously, Heat, Dolphins, all the sports are covered. Football is getting ready to start up and all, but we'll be back with a lot more of this content. Just quick programming before Eric takes us out of here. We scrambled it up a little bit this week because I got back from vacation on Monday. So I did my prospect podcast on Tuesday, and the Man on Second on Wednesday, even if it runs on Thursday. We'll get back to more of Sunday night, Monday with the Man on Second, Wednesday the prospects, and hopefully one other day later in the week.
Absolutely, should be a lot of fun as we get a lot of moving parts. You can find all of that on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Remember, like and subscribe. It does help grow the channel. We get better reach. You guys will be more privy to when it is we're posting. The bigger we get, the more our reach becomes. And as always, you can also find us at Man on Second on Twitter. We do post the podcasts as well as we give general commentary there as well and interact with the fans. So we will see you guys next time. We look forward to it.